Her fingers moved with the same speed and precision, her face serene as she wove the tiny braids one by one. For the entire time that Adunni braided her hair, Yeti cried. She squirmed, tried to pull away, and kept casting terrified glances at Adunni. The village of Joba was usually a place of simplicity and familiarity. Nestled between hills and bordered by the Oze River, it was a small village in Ogun State where everyone knew everyone else. Life moved at a steady, predictable pace. The chickens clucked around the huts each morning, children ran barefoot across dusty paths, and neighbors greeted each other warmly as they made their way to the market or the farm. It was a village where news spread fast, but surprises were rare. But a certain December morning was different. As dawn broke over Joba, the villagers yawned and stretched, expecting to begin another quiet day. However, as they gathered at the village square, they noticed something that made them stop and stare. The old abandoned shop at the edge of the square, the one everyone had assumed would remain empty forever, was no longer abandoned. A bright sign hung above the door, hand-painted with intricate patterns and the words, Adunni hair braiding, fast, neat, and affordable. Inside, the shop was completely transformed. Gone were the dusty shelves and cobwebbed corners that everyone had seen only the day before. Now, there were polished mirrors along the walls, stools lined up neatly, and rows of colorful beads, combs, and oils arranged with care. In the center of it all stood a young woman with dark, smooth skin, tall and slender in stature. She looked over the village square almost as if she had been waiting for them. Her name was Adunni, but no one knew where she had come from. Villagers began to murmur amongst themselves. Who is this girl? When did she arrive? They whispered, glancing at each other with wide, curious eyes. One by one, they stepped forward to peer through the windows or even venture inside. Adunni welcomed them with a polite smile, inviting them to sit and see her work. Her calmness put some at ease, but for others, it only deepened the mystery. No one could understand how she had set up a whole shop overnight without anyone noticing. It was as if she had appeared from thin air, bringing this new life with her. Yet, for all the questions swirling in the villagers' minds, curiosity soon gave way to excitement. After all, it was the Christmas season, a time when everyone in Joba wanted to look their best. For many, that meant braiding their hair in elaborate, beautiful styles. And here in their own village square, was a hairdresser who promised fast, neat, and affordable braids. It was almost too good to be true. It didn't take long before the first customer, a young woman named Aya, sat in Adunni's chair. Aya was known for her love of braids, and she often spent hours at a time getting her hair done in town at the only other salon nearby. But today, she didn't need to leave the village. She settled into the chair, looking at Adunni with a mixture of anticipation and skepticism. Adunni began to work with quiet precision. Her hands moved over Aya's hair with such skill that everyone watching was amazed. She parted, combed, twisted, and braided with a speed that none of them had seen before. Yet, even as she moved quickly, her attention to detail was evident. Each braid was as neat as the last, and her fingers worked as if guided by a rhythm only she could hear. Aya's eyes widened in surprise as Adunni finished her hair in less than half the time it would have normally taken. She turned to look in the mirror, her mouth opening in astonishment. Her braids were flawless, each one perfectly woven, as if they had taken hours rather than minutes. By the time Aya stood up from the chair, a small crowd had gathered around the shop. They murmured in amazement, glancing between Aya's hair and Adunni with a mixture of admiration and awe. How was it possible that this young hairdresser could work so quickly, yet with such perfection? Before long, word of Adunni's talent spread beyond the square. News traveled from hut to hut, field to field, until nearly everyone in the village had heard about the mysterious new hairdresser. Her shop became a magnet, drawing mothers with daughters, young girls eager for stylish braids, and even men curious to see what all the fuss was about. Each day, her shop filled up early in the morning, and by evening, she had attended to every single customer. It wasn't long before people stopped questioning her arrival. In fact, many villagers began to look at Adunni as a blessing, a gift that had arrived just in time for Christmas. They whispered about her talent and her speed, calling her hands magic and saying that only someone with a special gift could braid so beautifully and so quickly. The days leading up to Christmas were always bustling in Joba. Families prepared for celebrations, the market was crowded, and everywhere, people wanted to look their best. Naturally, Adunni's shop became a central part of the season's excitement. Each morning, her shop would open as the sun rose, and by mid-morning, the line outside was long. Mothers brought their daughters, eager to show off beautiful new braids. Young women saved up to get the latest styles from Adunni, knowing they'd stand out in any crowd. But as the Christmas season approached, there was one person in Joba who couldn't shake the feeling that there was something strange about Adunni. Mama Akin, one of the oldest women in the village, had an intuition for things unseen. She sensed when something wasn't quite right. She had heard so many stories about the young hairdresser's exploits, though she did not believe them, thinking people were exaggerating. However, when her granddaughter, Yeti, needed her hair braided, she asked her neighbor, Auntie Bay, to take the little girl to Adunni's shop. Yeti, a lively 4-year-old, was always excited about getting her hair done. But the moment she saw Adunni, she froze. Her chubby little hand slipped from Auntie Bay's grasp, and her wide, curious eyes filled with sudden fear. She whimpered, clutching her plastic doll tightly to her chest. As Adunni approached with a gentle smile and said, "Come, Yeti, sit in my chair," Yeti only shook her head and stepped back. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she clung to Auntie Bay, sobbing uncontrollably. Mama Akin arrived later that afternoon to pick up Yeti, only to find the little girl still sniffling outside. But it wasn't Yeti's distress that caught Mama Akin's attention, it was Adunni. The old woman studied her carefully, feeling an unexplainable unease. Then, with a sharp voice, she asked, "Who are you?" A tense silence filled the shop. Adunni said nothing. Mama Akin's eyes narrowed. "You have no business here, child. What are you looking for?" Still, Adunni remained silent, her fingers braiding another customer's hair with smooth precision. The tension in the shop thickened. Finally, Mama Akin leaned in, speaking in Yoruba. "Life and death have nothing in common. Whatever you're looking for, you will not find it in Joba. Be gone." A flicker of something, surprise, perhaps, crossed Adunni's face. But it vanished just as quickly. Without another word, Mama Akin took Yeti's hand and walked out of the shop. By nightfall, Adunni had vanished, her shop abandoned as mysteriously as it had appeared. To this day, the people of Joba still whisper about Adunni, the hairdresser who came and went like a shadow, weaving beauty, mystery, and fear into every braid. I hope you learned something from this story. Please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button. Be a part of my growth. Turn on the notifications so that when I post more interesting stories, you'll be the first to get them. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your consistent support.